When archaeologists talk about seafaring humans, what do they date that to?
The great seafaring adventure that is accepted by archaeology is called the Polynesian expansion, and it's a remarkable story, and that occurs roughly 3,000 to 3,500 years ago.
History is written by those who claim to know the truth. But every once in a while, someone finds something that shouldn't exist, something that makes the entire story collapse. When Graham Hancock revealed what he called a forbidden world map, the reaction was immediate.
Is ancient maps which show the world as it looked during the last ice age. We're talking about maps that were drawn roughly between the 1300s and the 1700s.
Some called it a breakthrough. Others called it impossible. Yet no one could ignore it. The map's existence alone challenges everything we've been taught about where civilization began and how far back it might truly go. The world that should have been known. For centuries, humanity has lived under the belief that its past is fully mapped out. Schools teach that we know where civilization began, how it spread, and when it reached the seas. Archaeologists have catalogued each ruin and placed every discovery into a neat historical order. Our maps appear complete, our knowledge certain. Every mountain, desert, and coastline has been scanned from orbit. The world seems transparent, as if nothing could ever again surprise us. But beneath that confidence, a quiet uncertainty has begun to spread. Small inconsistencies in the record have appeared, fragments that do not belong where history says they should. Some researchers have noticed artifacts that seem too advanced for their supposed age. Others have pointed out ruins lying far beneath the ocean floor, places that could only have been built when sea levels were lower than they are today. These findings are often brushed aside, labeled as coincidences or misinterpretations. Yet the number of anomalies keeps growing, and with them, a deeper question forms. What if we are missing an entire chapter of human history? That question has driven independent researchers to search for evidence outside accepted archaeology. Among them, none has stirred as much debate as author and researcher Graham Hancock. He has spent decades gathering evidence that challenges the accepted story of civilization's origins. According to reports from his books and documentaries, Hancock believes that traces of an advanced ancient civilization still survive, hidden in old myths, geological evidence, and ancient maps that history has overlooked. For years, his ideas remained on the fringe, debated mostly among alternative researchers. That changed after one interview brought his theories into the global spotlight and forced the world to pay attention. When Hancock appeared on the Joe Rogan Experience, the tone of the conversation was calm at first. Rogan listened as Hancock spoke about ancient cities and sudden floods that reshaped the earth. Then Rogan leaned forward and asked the question that changed everything. If an entire civilization existed before the Ice Age, how could every trace of it disappear? Hancock paused and answered carefully. He said that the proof might already exist, but it has been ignored or buried, sometimes under the ocean itself. He described an ancient map said to predate recorded history, often linked to records once kept in the Library of Alexandria. According to him, this map shows coastlines that are now sealed beneath thousands of feet of ice. If genuine, it would mean that whoever made it saw the Earth as it looked more than 12,000 years ago, long before any known civilization. The conversation spread quickly across social media. Millions watched as Rogan pressed with disbelief and Hancock defended his claim. Scientists accused him of promoting speculation. Others admitted that parts of the mystery, especially the accuracy of some early maps, remain unexplained. The public reaction was divided between excitement and unease. For many, the idea that human civilization could be far older than anyone imagined felt both thrilling and terrifying. The controversy forced people to reconsider what they had accepted as truth. If the forbidden map exists, it might not only rewrite our history, but reveal how fragile our understanding of it really is. To explore this possibility, we must go back to the beginning of what historians call humanity's first great adventure, the age when humans first learned to master the sea. The first sailors, or the first to return? According to archaeology, humanity's first great age of ocean travel began roughly 3,000 years ago. It is known as the Polynesian expansion. Generations of seafarers set out from what is now Taiwan and Southeast Asia, spreading eastward across the vast Pacific. They carried no compasses or metal instruments. Their ships were built from wood and lashings of rope, guided only by wind, waves, and the stars. They read the shape of clouds and the direction of swells, even tracking the flight of seabirds to know when land was near. Each voyage tested the limits of endurance, yet these navigators found islands scattered thousands of miles apart and made them home. They reached Easter Island, Hawaii, New Zealand, and the farthest edges of the ocean. On these remote specks of land, they built thriving cultures and preserved oral histories that still echo across the Pacific today. Archaeologists regard this achievement as one of the greatest in human history. These voyagers proved that early humans could master the sea without modern technology. Their success became a triumph of innovation, a symbol of how far human curiosity could reach. For centuries, this story stood as evidence that progress was predictable, that humanity's path from land to sea was a slow climb from primitive to advanced. The Polynesians were celebrated as the first to conquer the waves, the first to unlock the secrets of the ocean. Yet behind that celebration lies a quiet assumption that no one before them ever dared the open sea. That is the assumption Graham Hancock challenges. He argues that the Polynesians might not have been the first explorers, but the first to rediscover a skill once lost. According to his research, if sailors 3,000 years ago could cross oceans using only the stars, then there is little reason to believe humans 12,000 years ago could not have done the same. The difference, he says, is not in human ability, but in what survived. Those early sailors may have lived along coastlines that no longer exist. When the Ice Age ended and glaciers melted, the rising seas swallowed their ports, their cities, and every trace of their world. Some believe that if those early sailors truly existed, fragments of their knowledge might have survived, passed down through stories, symbols, and ancient charts that later inspired the mysterious world maps Hancock now studies. He suggests that what archaeologists call the birth of navigation may instead have been the recovery of a far older science. For many, this idea is difficult to accept. It overturns the story of steady human progress and replaces it with something more haunting, the memory of a forgotten age. For centuries, textbooks celebrated the Polynesians as proof of humanity's forward march. The thought that they may have been heirs to a lost civilization is both thrilling and deeply unsettling. If those ancient sailors once mapped the world, their ports and harbors would now be unreachable, buried under silt and ice. Hancock points out that since the last ice age ended, sea levels have risen by more than 400 feet. In his view, the absence of evidence is not proof that they never existed. It may only mean that their world was drowned. Most archaeologists dismiss this as conjecture, yet even they acknowledge the mystery of underwater formations that continue to defy clear explanation. If these traces are real, then the Polynesians were not humanity's first sailors. They were the first to return to an ability humanity had long forgotten. Their story now leads us beneath the ocean's surface, to the places where the sea swallowed entire coastlines. There, buried under layers of sand and silence, may lie the ports, settlements, and traces of a civilization far older than our own. The drowned edges of civilization. When the last ice age ended, vast stretches of land vanished beneath rising seas. What remains beneath those waters has become one of archaeology's deepest mysteries. Along the edges of the continents lie drowned landscapes, once fertile ground, now hidden under hundreds of feet of water. These submerged plains were not empty. They were where early humans would have lived, built, and traded. The coasts were the highways of the ancient world, the places most suited for settlement and exploration. Today, those same regions lie buried under layers of sand and silt. Modern deltas like the Nile, the Indus, and the Mississippi sit atop what were once lowlands and floodplains. Every continental shelf, from the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Mexico, hides the possibility of a forgotten world. For decades, researchers believed these seabeds were barren. But new technology has begun to tell a different story. According to geological surveys and sonar mapping, strange formations appear in several underwater zones. Some look like terraces, others like long, straight walls or harbor-like enclosures. Off the coast of India, divers have reported patterns of stone blocks arranged in grids, resembling streets and platforms. Near Japan's Yonaguni Island, massive stair-like steps rise from the seabed, carved into solid rock. And in the Atlantic, near the Bahamas, an alignment of limestone blocks forms what appears to be a paved road leading into the deep. Official studies often describe these features as natural formations. Yet independent researchers and divers who have examined them closely argue that they bear the marks of deliberate construction. Their symmetry and placement, they say, seem far too precise to be the work of random geology. Some reports even note that certain formations line up with areas once above sea level before the seas rose. Graham Hancock believes these underwater structures are the remains of an earlier civilization. The physical traces of a world that existed before the flood transformed the Earth. The idea that human civilization did not begin from nothing but was reborn from survivors who remembered fragments of what once was. According to his interpretation, the silence in the archaeological record is not evidence of absence but proof of how complete that destruction was. This view changes the way we see prehistory. It suggests that the age before civilization was not a beginning but an aftermath, the rebuilding of a shattered world. Flood stories from Mesopotamia, Egypt, India, and Mesoamerica may not be legends at all, but memories of the same catastrophe told in different languages. What remains of that lost world are only fragments, carved stones, mythic warnings, and maps said to preserve the outlines of those vanished coasts. If those fragments are real, then our history is far older and far more fragile than we have ever believed. But the next piece of evidence lies not in the ruins or the sea. It lies within us, carried in our blood, in the genes that still whisper the story of a forgotten age. The DNA that shouldn't exist. In the heart of the Amazon rainforest, scientists studying the genetic history of indigenous tribes made a discovery that none of them could explain. Hidden within their DNA was a signal that did not belong there. It matched not with neighboring South American populations, but with ancient peoples from Australia and the Pacific. The finding was so unexpected that many researchers at first believed it had to be an error in the data. Yet as more samples were tested, the pattern repeated itself. The same unique signature appeared again and again. According to published studies, the genetic link is too strong to be coincidence. The indigenous groups of the Amazon share a small but measurable connection with populations thousands of miles away, across the largest ocean on Earth. No known migration route accounts for this. There is no land bridge that connects South America with Australia or Melanesia. Even with modern technology, the distance would be difficult to cross. Yet the evidence sits there in living cells, a biological record of contact that should not exist. Several research papers have acknowledged the anomaly but have been unable to explain it. Some scientists have suggested random gene flow or unrecorded ancient migrations, but none of these theories fit cleanly within accepted models of human movement. The mystery has forced geneticists to reconsider what they thought they knew about early exploration. If these genes came from contact between distant peoples, then someone must have crossed the Pacific long before the Polynesians ever set sail. Graham Hancock sees this discovery as another fragment of a forgotten story. He argues that the DNA connection supports the idea of a lost maritime culture that once spanned the world's oceans. According to his interpretation, the people who carried these genes may have been survivors of an earlier civilization, spreading fragments of knowledge and bloodlines as they rebuilt after the Great Flood. To him, the genetic evidence is not random. It is a silent record of journeys erased by time and buried under the rise of new worlds. If true, this would push the age of transoceanic travel back at least 10,000 years earlier than history currently allows. The genes themselves become witnesses, carrying memories older than any written text. They whisper of contact between worlds that science has long kept apart. And to follow those whispers, Hancock turns to another clue from the past. An ancient map that should not exist. A chart that will soon become the forbidden key to the mystery. The map that shouldn't exist. In the archives of Istanbul's Topkapi Palace,